Now, and there's so much talk of, say, lateral entry of experts in government these days, right? Now, I often wonder that why is it the L&T division cannot get a professor of international law to work as a joint secretary for, say, 5 years, or to just be an international law advisor to the government, right? I'm sure there are many good people in Indian university. At least you can easily list 10 to 15 people who will fit in this role, right? But why something like this doesn't take place? I mean, of course, it could be arguments of, the bureaucrats getting insecure of themselves. The people who are already there don't want outsiders to come in because then that person will block that person's promotion for next 5 years, so on and so forth. But then, the government has to think beyond these things, right? And this has to be a political decision which has to be taken. So this is just one example. Similar things can happen within, in other ministries as well. Like in the environment ministry, there's a lot of dealing with international environmental law. So you need legal expertise there as well. Likewise in the law ministry, but we don't see that happening because we don't have institutionalized structures in place.
So, Professor, I'm not sure if you've come across this, but there was basically a Rajya Sabha report, which in 2016, which spoke about how various ministries deal with international law subjects. And it said that you can't just rely upon the L&T division to somehow oversee and coordinate between these various ministries and whether India is complying with international law or also like engaging in international law. So that Rajya Sabha report had suggested that India should have a department of international law. I was wondering how you would see this happening, whether you agree with this recommendation, whether you think it might be useful.
No, absolutely. I mean, but again, the question would be that where will this Department of International Law be housed? Will it be housed within the Law Ministry? Will it be housed within the MEA? Where will it be housed? Because it's not just this Rajya Sabha report. There was another report of a high-powered committee on arbitration. I had not appeared, but kind of participated in a conference where they had invited me. So this was on making India an arbitration hub, and they also included a section on investment treaty arbitration. This was headed by, I'm forgetting the name of the judge. He has headed several committees. Anyway, so this committee also recommended to create the post of an international law advisor who would advise the government on investment law matters. And the proposal was that this should be based in the law ministry. Now, the L&T division or the MEA will not be comfortable with this because then they think that international law is our domain and it is now being taken away from us and being put somewhere else. So, you will have to address these turf battles as well. Now, I don't think you will ever create a separate ministry for international law. I mean, that obviously will be too much. But in other countries, generally speaking, it is the Attorney General's office, where you have international lawyers as well, along with domestic lawyers. So from that standpoint, maybe the law ministry, should have or could have a department of international law. But then how will this department work in tandem with the L&T division? That issue will have to be sorted out.
I think this is a bit of a stretch considering that we just discussed that India doesn't engage with academics at all. But there's also a related issue of nominations. And every time India has nominated someone, it has been either like someone who is associated with the MEA or an ex-judge. So I was wondering how you see why you would make a case for looking beyond, again, the established machinery and looking at people who are academics who've served their lives doing international law work. Because it's funny because now you also see India becoming a laughingstock in these international organizations because the people we're nominating are not equipped to deal with international law matters.
Yeah. Now, I wrote a piece on this in Hindu last, I think in October, November perhaps, where I kind of made the same point that India has been, this was in connection with Professor Bimal Patel's nominations. I said that all said and done, this is the first time that a professor is being nominated to the ILC. Now, how good or bad is a separate question, but at least there is a professor who is being nominated. So there are two things in this, in my view. First is that there is no logic in only limiting this to people associated with MEA. I mean, of course, people like PS Rao who have gone to the ILC have, are outstanding lawyers. So I'm not questioning their credentials. Maybe the same can't be said about some of his successors who went to the ILC. But as far as Dr. PS Rao is concerned, he was an outstanding lawyer. Same will go for, Narinder Singh, for example. But again, the fact is that they went there because they were part of the MEA machinery. And if we compare this with countries like US, UK, we will see that they routinely send professors of international law to these commissions and even to the ICJ. The same logic would apply to WTO's appellate body. So the two Indians have served at the WTO's appellate body. Both have been retired civil servants who worked in the Commerce Ministry. So they definitely need to look outside the government and, at academics. And I have made a case by saying that this is how it happens in several other liberal democracies, such as Australia, UK, US. So there's no reason why India should not do this. And the second point is that no matter who you nominate, whether you nominate a professor or whether you nominate somebody from the MEA, the process has to be transparent. Now, we don't know how you have nominated X to the ILC. What process did you follow? Did you invite applications? Did you say that, okay, we have shortlisted 10 people and there was a selection committee, so to say, which then finally recommended 3 people and then finally 1 person got nominated? Say, for example, a procedure that is followed in appointing vice chancellors in universities. So what is the mechanism that you follow? That also has to be transparent, right? So the ideal way would be that you invite applications from eligible candidates and then have a committee of experts, which then either interviews these candidates or, at least nominates them based on certain objective criteria. And then that person goes to the ILC. Otherwise, what happens is, as we know, in the case of Dr. Rajput's nomination to the ILC, there were allegations of, that happening because of his ideological proximity to the regime. And the similar, arguments can be made in case of Professor Patel as well. So it's neither good for the country, nor is it good for those individuals, because then people start to think that, okay, that guy is there because of whatever, not because of merit. So therefore, the process has to be transparent. So looking beyond the government and making the process transparent, both have to go hand in hand.